It's loud out there. Everybody has an opinion or they want an opinion or they're asking me, "Hey, Zelda, can you predict what's happening in real estate today?" They all say, "Can you bring my crystal ball?" So I've got a crystal ball right off of Amazon. Hey, and I waved my little magic hands over it and I said, "What's happening in real estate that everybody needs to know?" You know what it said? It said, "Just call Leigh Brown." So I did. I called Leigh. Leigh is a phenomenal leader in real estate. I've been following her for years. Let me tell you a little bit about what you have in store today. So I reached out to Leigh. Leigh is a broker. She is a coach. She's a keynote speaker. What I like to say is she's a truth teller because she's not only a truth teller, she's an author. She's written several books and she's got a brand new one out with a great message that we're going to talk about. Yay. If you follow me on Facebook, you know I posted her picture in Times Square with her book on the billboard there. So we're going to hear from her today. She is someone who she cuts through the noise. She leads with honesty, and what I love is humor. She is so humorous. And what is really cool, and you'll hear it in a minute, she's got a Southern accent that puts mine to shame. She's got that accent. And she's not going to waste your time today. She's going to give us some great advice about the real estate market and about her book. Like I said, she's a keynote speaker. She's a strategic leader, and she has led at every level of a realtor's journey. After all, she's brokered out there in North Carolina, so she knows. She serves her community through nonprofit. I love that. And she's built her reputation for being telling bold truths. She delivers her thoughts with humor and heart, and she still wants to challenge us to think bigger, to laugh louder, and to lead with courage. Ooh, I love that. So she's the author of her new book. The new book is called Next is Now. Don't you love that? Because it is true. Next is now. So I couldn't be more excited than to say, welcome, Leigh Brown.
I'm just super honored to get to see you, Zelda, and thank you for the very kind introduction. I was curious as to what you would come up with because we never know what you're going to say.
I asked for a little brief bio so that I can use that. And it was so brief, I said, I can't use this. Like 2 sentences. I said, come on, Leigh is big. So there it is. So I came up with a whole bunch of stuff, which was all accurate. So, Leigh, let's just dive right in. So, you talk to agents all over the country. You're out there, and when they really want to get honest with you behind the scenes, what are they struggling with right now that the public might not know?
It's a general lack of confidence, Zelda, and I think it was happening before these giant class action lawsuits because if you ask most members of the public, they like their realtor, but the rest of us they think are a bunch of scumbags, and the profession doesn't have a high level of regard or respect. Then when these lawsuits hit and we got that negative judgment in October of 23, it took the knees out of a lot of really good realtors because if you read any of the articles that were in the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or anywhere else, and then God forbid you got into that comment thread, which is the worst thing anybody can ever do ever, and you would read all these nasty, terrible things, a lot of really good people were questioning, am I worth anything at all? Because we all know that if you hear 100 comments about yourself and 99 of them are praise and they love you, but one is a nasty negative person, you're going to get really entirely too focused on that nasty one, forgetting all the good. And I think that's what's happened. And so when I talk to realtors, even today, we're over 2 years past that class action lawsuit. A lot of realtors haven't regained that sense of, oh, this profession is honorable. I do bring a good service forward. And so I think my job is to encourage them to remember what they've done well and what they're continuing to do well.
Yeah, I think people in general get hung up no matter what profession you're in, or even if you're not in a profession, they get hung up on that one little negative thing and it just eats in their head. And it's get over it, move on. Next.
But I do think that's the risk of social media
Oh,
because
yeah.
these things have trained us to only please people and you think everybody else around you is awesome, but you're the one failure. Those feed that, which is why part of the advice I give to any realtor is put this stupid thing in airplane mode and focus and go talk to people face to face and
Yeah.
realize that they actually do like human interaction.
Yeah, people aren't posting on there, "Hey, look, I'm having trouble." If they do, it's very generic and basic. They're not putting their hearts out on the line on internet. They're
No, girl,
posting, "Look at me, it's all
that's when
rainbows and
they put out
lollipops."
the I have an unspoken prayer request, which we're like, that is just the gossip chain. We don't do unspoken prayer requests because that is a problem.
"Just pray for me. I can't tell you what it is, but just pray for me. I got an issue." What exactly do you want me to ask them to pray for? Pray for
Exactly.
that person for whatever their problem is. Oh, yeah. So that's so true. So, there is so much noise in our industry. There's a new platform every single day. There's a new guru every other day. So listen to me, listen to me. I'm the one. I'm the one. Oh my God, so much noise and AI. So let's talk for a second about AI because it is not, I study it, I teach it, but it's not just Chat GPT, Claude, Gemini. AI is cloning people now. So, what do you see agents getting distracted by that's pulling them away from getting the good results?
It's fun to play with a new toy, and in our profession, we have always chased the new shiny object, and it's like you mentioned, there's always a new guru, a new Instagram channel, new, and get really away from what I just said, which is face-to-face conversations, which if you're paying attention, is also the way that you can overcome an AI-driven world is to be more dialed into your relationships because AI can only replicate a conversation. It can't actually have one and notice the body language and hear the inflection and watch somebody's neck tense up because they're not telling you everything yet. And that's one of the best skills that a good realtor has. So if I'm looking at what's happening with AI, a lot of agents are getting distracted by it because they've been told by some trainers that the agents that survive are using AI and the ones that don't will have to get out of the way. That's the same thing that's said about every new technology. And I have a whole list of different AI products that I'm checking out. I'm trying to figure out where my time could be utilized. But so far, Zelda, what I've discovered is that when I use things like Chat GPT or Perplexity or whichever one you want to use, I still have to go back and fact check it because it's wrong a lot of the time. And then if you say, you know what, Chat, you did not have the average sales price correct for my zip code in 28025. Chat will come back and say, you're right. I'm sorry. The number is actually X. And I'm cross
Yes.
checking it with the multiple. And I say, that's still not right. And chat says, you're right. It's not correct. My data comes from 2023. Then you realize that if it's built on faulty or out of date data, and the real estate professional is relying on bad data, the person who gets the worst outcome is the member of the public.
Yes.
Now, it doesn't mean you couldn't take chat and take your multiple listing stats and feed it in and say, chat, help me explain this. Because a lot of agents, that was the one thing they had trouble with getting licensed. You've heard it too, Zelda. Like, oh, I was good except for the math portion because realtors that are great at relationships, math doesn't always go with
But they
relationships.
can figure out their commissions.
Oh, they can figure out any percentage of anything. But if you let chat help you explain what
Yes.
is an absorption rate, what is list price to sales price ratio, you can learn from the AI tools while you deliver. And I think that's a great way to look at them is a resource that makes us stronger. But if you start relying on that resource too much, you're basically letting Satan into your business. And so I still remain convinced that AI is ultimately a tool of Satan. Just gonna say it.
That's interesting how I feel about the big Z, Zillow. Boy, are they accurate about our pricing, aren't they?
The only time I'm mad at Zillow is when they accidentally get the price right, because most of the time they're off. They get it
Yes.
right sometimes and like, dang it, I don't appreciate that you're right, but even a blind squirrel finds an acorn. And the thing about Zillow that I wish people would remember, whether they're in the public and they landed on your podcast because they're fascinated or it's a realtor watching or listening to this, you've got to remember that Zillow serves shareholders. All they serve is the end dollar. They don't care about the American dream. They don't care about the entrepreneurs involved. They don't care about the people going through a divorce who can't be in the room together. All Zillow cares about is the bottom dollar. And
Yes.
that's not wrong in a capitalist society. That's fine. Making a profit is fine, but you better understand that's why they do what they do. They're ultimately chasing dollars. And I think good realtors are chasing best outcomes, and then they get rewarded by dollars. It's 2 different things.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that because there's so many realtors, or at least there were in the past couple of years when it was I called them order takers because that's all they were.
That
It's
was the
like
market we
that
had,
was
yeah.
the market. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna be a realtor because all I have to do is turn on my phone and just take orders. So building trust is important. We both know I talk about relationships and building that trust. So in the market today, consumers are skeptical. You were always saying that realtors don't have the best reputation. I don't know why, because I know that, hey, I'm pretty good. So agents feel the pressure to perform. What do you feel it takes to earn the public's trust in this industry?
There will be no surprise to you when I say it comes from telling the truth. And what I have found is that when you are truthful with people, even if they don't like the answer, they prefer that you laid it out there than if you tried to be all rainbows and sunshine and unicorns. And too many realtors are a little passive aggressive and they are non confrontational. So they feel it's better to just say the good thing. And right now, we're recording this in January of 2026, and the markets all over the country are hiccuping. Some neighborhoods are great and have multiple
Yes.
offers, and some neighborhoods it takes 30 days, and then this house took 60 days, and it was the same as this house. It sold in 5 minutes, and it's all over the place, which means that when the consumer reaches out and asks, "Can we sell our house?" a very wise realtor will say, "It depends. It depends on if you can handle the ups and downs of the market, and you have to decide that. And you have to be able to handle the ups and downs of the numbers because I can't control what's happening because, as you've already mentioned, Zelda, it's not 2021 when you
Have a crystal ball.
threw a house out there and it sold immediately. And the same thing with buyers. And every buyer on the planet right now is saying, when's the market going to crash? Because they're all waiting on some great 25% off sale. And our answer has to be, it depends. There's houses here and there that crash because of their scenario. Is the market gonna crash? I don't know. If I knew, I'd get out or I'd get my cash ready to buy in. I don't know. I did think we were gonna see more of a correction in 21 or 22 because everything was so hyperinflated, and then it didn't happen. We don't have any way to predict the outcome, which means that your answer is quite often just, "It depends."
It does, and
Don't
it
take a
depends from one
stance of a yes or
you
no.
can be in the same city, and it just depends on this neighborhood versus that. I've got 2 listings. One's in this gorgeous, wonderful neighborhood that every family wants to be in. It gets showings. The other one is out in the boondocks. It's hard to get people to go out there and look at it. It's hard. So,
There's just no way to tell, and then I would just say that if you're an agent who gives definitive answers, "Oh, yes, it's gonna sell, boom," you're hurting the reputation of all of
yes.
us, and the same thing with the consumer. I know you do the same thing. I wish I could tell some of these agents, some of these buyers, how their agents are hurting them
Mhm.
because I have a listing right now. The buyer's agent was, let's just say he was a bit abrupt and bossy and rude, and had apparently made a promise to his buyers what he could get the house for. My sellers were not willing to sell it for that price. And so
Mhm.
they withdrew from the negotiation. And he pitched a fit at me and said he didn't want to work with me again in the future because my people had withdrawn from the negotiation. I said, it's the numbers didn't work for them. He said, it's only a couple $1,000s. And I almost lost my temper because, buddy, that's not your money. That's their
Ex
money.
That's what I always
And
say, "My
so
pocket or your pocket?"
I told my sellers, I said, "I'm pretty sure he promised them that he was gonna be Mr. Great Negotiator and get them a smoking deal, and that had nothing to do with you."
Yeah.
And so those buyers missed out because their agent gave them an imaginary cap on a promise he couldn't make about people he didn't know. And so again, that erodes trust in the whole process, and the buyers lose out, but because they're out of state, Zelda, they will never know that it was their agent that cost them the house,
Yep.
and here we are.
And here we are. It reminds me a lot of times I'll get a listing and I really go after I don't work with a lot of buyers. I do when if they sold it and they're buying, I'm mostly listing. But it gets me when I have to educate them when they go, let's just list it at this other price, the higher price, and test the market. I'm like, do you not realize that you're wasting your most valuable the asset here is we want heads in the house. We want bodies in the house for the first 2 weeks, and testing the market is a bad idea. But give us your take on testing the market.
Those are the same people that say it just takes one buyer, and then
Yes.
they also say, "I'm not gonna give it away," which
Yes.
always makes me think about the greatest trainer we ever had in real estate was Howard Brenton, the late great Howard Brenton, who died, I don't know, over a decade ago now, but he founded Star Power, and he was all about sharing best practices. And what I had learned from Howard at an event at some point was for that person who says, "I'm not gonna give it away," if the price in MLS is not $1, then you're not giving it away. It's the buyer's gonna tell you what they'll pay for it, and you can say yes or no, but you're not giving it away.
Yes.
So to slow down the hyperbole really can help people to think. But for the seller who thinks they can beat the market, what I have to ask is if you buy stocks and bonds, and almost everybody does through their
Mhm.
401k or their IRA, or they've got some experience with it. Okay, great. So if the asking price for Apple stock were to go back to $100, because I like round numbers being a realtor, would you pay 125 when everybody else is paying 100? Oh, no, never. Okay, so that's the difference. There might be somebody who will overpay, but if the rest of the market is here and you're here, all you did was showcase that everybody else is correct.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. It's
And
very
that being said, you can get it wrong because our business is not an exact science. A savvy seller says, okay, the numbers look like a range, and a good agent who says this house is properly prepared, you might be at the top of the range. However, the buyers will tell us if you are or are not correct.
yes.
And so if they do not come through the door, as you mentioned, or they do not bring us offers, then we know we're too high based on their lack of offers. And so then we can adjust down, but that's different than the person who's wildly overshooting all
Yes.
of the available data points.
Now, are you seeing in North Carolina or from other realtors that you talk to across the globe that most buyers are now looking for that move-in ready home? I see a lot of that here where we are. They don't want the HGTV fixer-uppers anymore. And you have to price your house accordingly if you have a fixer-upper or even you just need some renovations and updates. You have to price it below that house that just sold that's identical to yours that sold for a high price, but it's been updated.
The reality is, you already mentioned it one time, you don't have any extra time in your life. That time is a commodity. Our
Yes.
buyers feel that same thing. And with the cost of housing having gotten so high, you really probably need that income coming in. And so if you're not bringing in the income, you can't buy a house at all. They don't have time to call the general contractor to change the bathroom, change the flooring, paint the house. And so they come in and they're not just evaluating, well, I think it'll take about 20 grand to bring this up to snuff. They're thinking it's 20 grand and I don't have 6 weeks to babysit contractors. I can't do this. And so they'll think about the stress and the time and they're out, which means that the person who's selling who has a house in need of freshening up or updating or upgrading or however you want to put it, they're now waiting on the as is investor buyer. And I wish they would understand that when we tell them those guys will purchase it for cash on the spot at a discount,
A big
it is
discount.
enough of a discount so that they have a margin because the margin they're going to take is the time the other buyer didn't want to invest. So if
Yes.
you're selling your house and you want to close that margin, you spend the time. I know you don't want to either, but somebody's going to have to. You're either going to sell it for less or spend the money to get it there because our buyers, they just can't right now.
Mic drop, everybody. I hope you heard that. That was such great advice. Great advice. It's nobody's gonna, yeah. It's in fact what I hear a lot when I bring a buyer in, where I hear the buyers, they go, we need to redo these kitchens and we need to redo the floors. And they're just using that for negotiation because darn, when they buy that house, they are not going to redo those cabinets. They are not going to redo those floors. They are not doing that stuff. They're just blowing smoke.
'Cause
Now,
even
maybe,
if they probably want to, but
yeah,
then they think, "I gotta get the kids in school, I gotta
yeah,
unpack, I'll get around to it,"
life.
and nobody gets around to it. Then when you and I go back to sell and you're like, "This wallpaper looks familiar," and they say, "Yeah, we were gonna change it, but then it was fine."
That's
And then you have
exactly
to
right.
tell them, "Now you have to pull it. We bought it with the paper here." I feel you on that. However, you already mentioned HGTV. Our buyers have stared at it for a year before they go looking at houses, and they've seen neutral with a pop of color. They come in expecting neutral with a pop of color. They don't expect your wallpaper and your popcorn ceilings and your brass over here and your dated cupboards. They come in expecting that TV house, and I'm so sorry, friends, but TV is driving way too much of the conversation, and
Sure is.
here we are.
And here we are. Here's 3 homes, pick one.
Pick the middle one always, and never pick the first or the last one.
I was like, "Which one are they gonna pick?" That one."
And it's only 30 minutes, and by the way, there's never a home inspection,
No,
never an appraisal,
no.
never a survey, and every time I watch that show, I'm like, "I wanna see the inspection report on this house, thank you."
Oh, dear, I love it, I love it. So, how important I'm gonna switch to the realtor for the listeners that are realtors out there. So, how important are these online reviews?
I'm currently in a fight with Airbnb about one right now because they are so critical to how people determine where they're gonna start. And I can look at this when I go to buy things online. I'm looking at the stars, and does it have 3 reviews? Then I'm thinking, this is either brand new or fake because they don't have enough reviews, so the quantity matters. But then I might see one with if instead of 5, they're at 4.5, but it's on 3,000 reviews. That's got real credibility to me as opposed to a 5-star 3 review. So the number, in my opinion, doesn't matter as much as the scope because I don't know about you, but if I see 3,000 reviews, I'm clicking on it. I see the breakdown, how many 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s. I
Yes.
don't read the fives. I go to the ones. What actually was the problem
Yes. What was the
here?
problem?
And then if it's something that it's a crazy person, so the fight I'm having with Airbnb is over a guest who damaged my house, and to retaliate, he left me a 1-star review. Well, I made sure and responded with all the things that had gone wrong so that when somebody clicks on the one, they will see my response. And now they can either believe that I'm the person who's dealing with the bad review or that the bad reviewer was correct. But there's a whole evaluation process that happens now. And for the realtors who don't go after reviews because they say, I might get a bad one. Okay, you might get a bad one because real estate is really stressful. But if you get a bad one, you've got to respond to it so
Yes,
that the
yes.
public can then they can make their own decision. And frankly, if somebody does not call me because of that bad review, because they believe the reviewer, I probably didn't want them anyway.
I was gonna say, those aren't the customers you want anyway, because 'cause they're
They're
gonna be
self-selecting.
yeah, yeah, it's like, "Fine, thank you for deleting me."
How many times have you looked at a dress or a top and then you read the reviews and like it's too tight? I've got a bra size, it's this one, and it
Color was off.
gaps.
Yeah.
And so I see those details, and I love detailed reviews, by the way, not just this is great, but I wear this size bra and the buttons gap. That to me is real world help and tells me that the reviewer is thoughtful enough to care about somebody else's outcome.
Yeah.
So their investment of time was not about the product, it was about me, somebody they've never met, being able to make a better decision. And I think that's the other angle of reviews we don't consider is that when you get out of your fear, you start realizing that people like trusting each other. So if you give them something that you entrust them with, I'm entrusting my reputation to my clients, they're entrusting their information to the public. It's a really interesting eco space to think about.
That's good stuff there, everybody. That's good
Like,
stuff.
your brain just started spinning. I could see the wheels
I
going.
was
You're
like
like, okay, this
yeah,
is
I go back and forth on the reviews. I always ask for reviews. It's hard to get them. And it's, can you give me something because she was great and she was communicating? Those are lovely, but let's get into some real meat of how great
yeah,
I
why did you pick me? Why did you
yeah,
pick Zelda? Oh, I picked you because this neighborhood or your time in the business or Bob knows you and Bob said you were great. That's what you want in your review
yeah,
because then when the invisible member of the public finds it, it's not just Zelda was great, but Zelda was great at communicating by text and she was patient with my wife who has dementia. If you get that kind of detailed review,
yes,
honey, it's
that's
candy
gold.
bar the doors.
That's gold. That's gold. That's what you want. That's exactly what you want. So I like it when they tell me, hey, she didn't rush me. She didn't try to, I'm not out for the dollar. I'm out for this is a life change for you. You're going through a life changes and let's make sure it's right. I don't like to waste people's money. In fact,
No.
I'll turn them down. I had someone recently that wanted to sell their house. It was an inherited house, and when I dug a little deeper, I said, "There's money owed on this house. There's a reverse mortgage, blah, 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 and there's a lot of
Mm.
you there." And it was a mess, and I said, "You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. The only person who's gonna make money on this deal is me. I don't think this is a good deal for you. I'm not the right person to be talking to." So, I passed on that deal because 'cause I'm not about that. I'm not about making the buck and you just ended up with nothing, but there's no point. It was let it go into foreclosure. There was no point in pursuing it. It wasn't her house. It was an inherited house. So, yeah, you have those conversations and you just have to, like you said earlier, you have to be honest with people. Tell them, it's like, you want to test the market? What are you testing it for? Do you want to pay another mortgage payment for another month? Do you want to pay another HOA dues and all of this other stuff? Or do you want to get on with your life? You already know where you want to go. So
And you
don't
know
te-
what's crazy too? The minute you tell somebody, "I don't think I'm a good fit for this," is often when they're like, "But no, no, you are. I do wanna hire you." It's
I know,
because
like, yeah,
you gave them permission because you weren't doing this whole square peg in a round hole or round peg in a square hole, however the phrase goes. Your ability to give them the truth regardless of the outcome allows them to come to a better decision. It's
yeah.
good stuff.
It is, it's yeah, I was like, maybe if you're a brand new agent, you just it's like when you're in business at beginning, you take everything, but I wasn't going to do that. Think I've
But
never done that. So,
looking back, you and I are not new at real estate. Don't you look back at your early years and say, "Man, I should have said no to this one. I should not have taken this one," because it was never worth it with the people who are impossible to please, or they'll cuss you out, or they don't price it correctly and they won't listen. So I'll just say that if you are earlier in your career than Zelda and I are, and you've landed on this episode, we're both gonna give you permission to say no sometimes, because if you refer that client to a different agent where they might have a better fit, that's gonna help your career far more than trying to be all things to all people.
yeah. Yeah, in the beginning, I got into the business when it was short sales. Everybody was leaving the industry and I go, "I'm going all in." And it was the best decision I ever made. But boy, some of those clients, it was rough. It was rough,
That
but
was emotional.
yeah, it was very different. So, I wanna transition a little bit because you have a book out and agents, buyers, sellers, everybody's waiting. They're saying, "I'm gonna wait for the market," like we talked about before, "until the rates drop or until I find a new house to move into," or I'm waiting for whatever they're waiting for and the right time. So, that brings us to your book. It's called Next is Now. So, what's happening in the industry and in your own conversations that you said, this is a message that I really need to bring to the public right now.
Everything right now is chaotic.
Yeah.
Our industry is chaotic because you have giant mergers going on. We have attacks from legislative fronts. We have agents that are deciding whether or not they're going to share data. There's all of these different angles that could ultimately impact the consumer. And when you are in times of chaos and disruption and distrust, how do you keep going? And I think that's a goes back to what we talked about at the very beginning. I want to make sure I'm encouraging people to go ahead and do that next thing in life. Keep going forward by building trust and building out your relationships and realizing that what you do today might not even benefit you today, but the you that's 5 years down the road will benefit from the decisions you made today. And that applies not just to our business lives, but it applies to how we approach our relationships. And for me, it was a huge moment of clarity because when Hurricane Helene hit North Carolina and just devastated the mountains in September of 24, I got called into relief work. And it wasn't just me writing a check like I'd done in the past, it was putting my business on hold to actually do relief work, which is now the nonprofit I've started. And I knew that if I had delayed in accepting that assignment, then A, I would be going against God's calling on my life. And B, I would have missed the chance to serve some people who were being completely left out by the state government and the federal government. So the benefits of me doing that then are still growing now. And I think the same thing happens in real estate. We could take it to something as simple as prospecting in a time of chaotic market conditions because when we're talking about a market where everything is doing this, that's chaos and it's noisy and it's confusing. So the agent who calls somebody and says, "Hey, Bob, hey, just wanted to say hey," probably reading about real estate in the headlines, you need anything, is the lowest key way to tell somebody there is a safe harbor in the storm and it's the person they know who's local and can be trusted not to lie to them because they've already learned not to trust the mainstream media and they don't trust the big corporations and the big money and the big companies. But you, the local realtor, you are none of those things. You are their neighbor and their friend, and they see you at the grocery store. So if you call and be proactive, it gives them a higher level of trust. As long as you don't say, "Who do you know that needs to buy or sell?" You can't be gross if you're making these phone calls. You have to be very,
Genuine,
very neighborly and
genuine.
genuinely care about their outcome. Well, my whole book is built on how to cast our relationships and build trust so that when things change, we're able to adapt and even thrive.
That's good. Tell us a little bit more about the book, especially for those people who maybe they're not in real estate. They have nothing to do with real estate, but I know this book has got to be for everybody. I can tell you this one little story. My sister and I do this all the time. If someone's not nice or something doesn't go our way, something like that, what we do is we look at each other and we laugh and we go, "Next," and we move on. And so when I
I
saw your book, I went, "Yeah, next is right now." We just move on. You just can't lie in that negative space. So tell us a little bit more about the book and how people can get the book.
Next is the four-letter word you can use in polite company, so just make sure you're thinking about that.
Yeah.
I will say that the hidden story of the book, and if anybody knows me or follows me online, it's not really a secret, but I'm a very faith-led person. I have a biblical worldview. I am tasked to reflect Jesus. And a lot of this book is about specifically how God called me into this nonprofit work out of real estate for a season. And I talk about some of the miracles I've seen in the mountains. And so for anybody who's struggling a bit with how to reconcile your faith life with your business life. If you're struggling to be yourself because the world has told you to fit a mold, the book will speak to you in some ways. In fact, I have been told that it's like having a conversation with me, that it's like your big sister talking to you. And one of my dear friends, Zelda, he texted me and I asked him what he thought because he said, "I got the book." I said, "Great. What'd you think?" And he said, "I read the first chapter and I had to put it down." I was like, "I think that hurts my feelings." And he's like, "You're stepping all over my toes." I didn't realize that this was where I am in life because he's of a medium undisclosed age too. And he said, "I'll pick it up again later, but I'm having to process." And to me, that's the biggest compliment I can be
Wow,
paid as the
yes.
author is that he's able to go to God in prayer and talk about his life and figure out things that are going to have a greater impact beyond just reading it because somebody told you to. So that's really interesting for me. For my previous books, they're obviously more sales focused. This one is a little more kingdom and heart focused. So it's a different approach, and I'm really excited about it. And of course, it's on Amazon. And for everybody who's understanding now that the Southern accent is a get out of jail free card, it is on Audible. And yes, I did narrate my own book because I could not let the AI bots take my book because they do not pronounce anything correctly. So that's
They
available
don't
right
say
now.
y'all.
They do, but they use it inaccurately, which I don't know about you, but if I watch an actress or an actor and they're trying to act Southern, they use y'all in every other sentence. And I'm thinking, y'all are using this wrong. And we're gonna have to have a conversation
Yeah.
about that. But there's
Y'all and bless your heart.
just if you pick it up and enjoy it, I would actually be so intrigued to hear what it said to you because
Ye
I'm fascinated right now by what the Lord's doing with people through words and through a life experience that I've had. So it's we got to always think about ourselves as not talking to, but being a vessel for something else to come through.
And you have to leave something behind, so you're leaving your legacy behind. There you go. It's like
You're gonna leave something behind, Zelda. So the question is, what are you gonna leave behind?
yeah, there you go. That was deep. That was deep, really. Your friend
We're
had
very
to
deep here on this
close the
show. The
book.
show is about serious stuff.
It was It's about serious connections, and it's like,
Sirs.
yeah, and I did mention how we were connected. We were connected because I was struggling and I didn't know who to reach out to. I didn't have a coach, and I'd been following you, and I was online, and I said, "Oh, look, she does one-on-one coaching. I'm gonna buy some time of Lee's and have her coach me." And you were just spent an hour with me. I think I only paid for a half hour.
I'm a realtor, so
It
telling
was
time is not my
it
strong
was
suit.
that's right. You kept it real. You kept it absolutely real. So, my question is, how do people our audiences you said that the book is available on Amazon. How else can they reach you?
Of
Wanna
course,
hire
I'm on
a
all
coach
the
or
social platforms, but you have to be careful on social because at this point, I've got a lot of imposters out there that are scamming me, which
uh,
if you are following the wrong account, it's gonna try to take you to Telegram and sell you crypto. Let me just let y'all know, I don't know crypto, I don't hang out on Telegram, and so your only response from me is gonna be a little heart or a "hey" or something, but social platforms are fantastic, but of course, you can always go to leighbrown.com, and that's Leigh Brown.com. It's spelled the right way for a girl.
that's right. I love that spelling of Lee. I love it.
The other way is for blue jeans, and so I like to remind people that I am not a pair of blue jeans. That is entirely different.
I don't own a pair.
At all?
There's one that's been hanging in the closet forever. No, I don't wear jeans.
Really? Why?
I don't like them on me.
Girl, you got to go check out the ones they have at White House Black Market. They are made for women of a certain age, and they help a woman of a certain age with the rear view, which is sometimes trying to escape the camera lens. They have the best jeans. I recommend you go try some,
I'll check
and let
them
me know
out. I
what
was
you
like,
think.
"I don't own a pair of jeans." I had a guest once, she was a consultant on dressing for success, and when I told her I had no she goes, "Girl, everybody needs one pair of good jeans." I'm like, "I don't have any."
All right, so go to the outlet and try them on because why would you pay full price if you can get them at the outlet?
Guess I'll be doing that this weekend. So, my last question is a signature question that I ask every single guest because we're called Success Through Connections. So, and for my audience, she has no clue what this is. She has no clue.
And I have no crystal ball
She has
because
no crystal ball.
we don't need them.
So here's the question is, has there ever been an opportunity that presented itself to you because of a connection that you had? Can you share that story?
Oh my gosh. If you wanna know how I met my husband,
Okay.
he and I met he's from New York, and so I'm obviously from North Carolina, so I'll just point out I've done my part for reconciliation, but I came back from selling chainsaws, didn't know anybody in Charlotte anymore because all my friends had gotten married and moved on. I was looking for something to do because I needed to meet some people, so I started playing softball in a league in the city, and a friend had invited me to play on a different team because when you're playing co-ed softball in your 20s, there's not nearly enough girls. I
Yeah.
played for one team and I got invited to play on every other team. Hey, you're a girl who can play ball. Come play over here. A friend of mine on that team invited me to play on his team, and my husband had also got invited to play on that team. And so after the game, a bunch of us had gone out to have a beer after the ball game, and we were sitting together, and it one thing led to another. We were playing ball together and we're playing volleyball together. Now we're married and we're 22 and a half years, 2 grown kids, and happy as 2 bugs in a rug, all because I did something scary by myself, then got connected to a friend who connected me to my husband.
That's a cool story. Okay, to my son, you're going to listen to this episode. My son who's single.
Just be careful, son, because some women are trashy. Don't fall into the clutches of a trashy woman. Make sure she's quality. Check out her parents, and that will tell you
That
everything you
I
need to
tell
know.
them the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yes, you
Or
marry the in-laws just like you marrying the one you love, so just be thoughtful, people.
that is so great. That is our show for today, everyone. This has been a joy talking to you, Lee. I hope you've enjoyed it too and that you'll hit that
Absolutely.
subscribe button. I think it's down there on the right somewhere. I'm not sure, but wherever it is, wherever, yeah, just hit subscribe. And remember that in today's world, connections are your currency, connections are your power move. And that I am your host, Zelda Greenberg. And I'll see you next week at a new episode of Success Through Connections.